So I have some more progress with my Tesla to PowerEdge cable project, and I don't think I've done a video of the whole process, so I'm kind of going back to the beginning. And this was the first one I made. This was basically a EPS 12 volt power supply cable for modular power supply, and I believe it was probably for like an EVGA, if memory serves correct. And yeah, so I ended up figuring out how to pull the pins out of the cable and kind of rewiring it in a really sketchy way. And it worked for a while. Then I started making my cables out of recycled computer cables, which I still kind of do a little bit of because of issues I've been having with getting parts and stuff. I put this one together incorrectly, so I had to focus. I had to do some whittling and cut it down, the tab, so to fit the Tesla. But this was supposed to be the server side, but I put the wrong connector on, so whoops. But this was basically the stage 2 design, minus the incorrect connectors on each end. And then we progressed more. These are my handmade ones with mostly new parts, using recycled wires and braiding, but the heat shrink, the connectors, and the pins are all new. And this is kind of the design I'm going towards. And I think this one's pretty close to my target length. So then I got my first prototype, which they took some creative liberty, which is kind of fine. It's whatever. It's a different kind of braiding. It's more of like a fabric-based braiding. And wasn't super fond of it because it's so thick. And I wasn't fond of the heat shrink because it's too long and it just didn't make the cable quite as flexible as I would like to see, because it does have to go through a pretty tight bend to get where it's going. But yeah, this was the first prototype. And I was having issues communicating with the person I want to use, and I'm hoping we can work things out. I am still kind of looking for a bit of a backup plan just in case, but the places I've reached out to so far haven't been very helpful. So, but here's the final prototype, which is pretty close to my final design. This is actually closer to the final length. I believe the final length, let's see here. There we go. Gotta be careful where I point my camera in my office. But the final length is target's 15.75 inches. So this is 16. Honestly, I'm fine with 1/4 inch variance as long as it's not too short. But yeah, I got my roughly 2-inch gap on each end for the wires to have a little bit of flex. Ended up shortening the labeling just because there were limitations to what they could do with the print. So I ended up going this route originally with the first prototype because, well, this route for the heat shrink and the braiding, because he wanted the lettering to turn out nice. And you can kind of see some of the texturing of the braid, but not too much. We talked about it a little, and I suggested that we shorten what we label it as, and then we have some 3-to-1 glue-based adhesive heat shrink under it. So that makes it so the lettering turns out nice. I did notice just now that Mobo kind of makes it over the seam a little bit, but the lettering still looks clean. And really it shouldn't even be necessary, but it's just keep things nice and easy to figure out, because a lot of the ones on eBay might look like this, except the heat shrink's not color coded. And the only way you could tell on the ones from China which end goes where is you look at the colors of the wiring, and well, this is one of the old ones, so you can't even tell on this. If I'll go back to mine. If this is one of the ones from China, the only way to tell which way goes where is you look at the pinout and the color of the wiring to figure out which side's riser and which side's EPS. Because the ones from China, I swear, I'm just gonna turn on the light. Ones from China just have this locking tab on both ends versus mine. They have this extra wide split one, which prevents you from plugging it in the wrong way. So, yeah, even if they do catch up to things and try to rip off my design, not that I'm trying to obfuscate how it's made by any means, but if they do catch up, then we'll see if they do the locking tab thing too, because they can't be bothered to label it in any meaningful way. And if you don't know which way it goes where, you can plug it in backwards and short things out. So, but in the meantime, I'm waiting on them to give me a final quote. The guy was nice enough to, oops, that don't belong there. That's, might keep that. It's a sample for design purposes. Guy was nice enough to give me some pre-made bits, so I can make a few more to get by, because I was a little unhappy that this has been taking so long and there's been some communication issues. I was really hoping to have these done by now-ish, not May at this point. I think I'm predicting that if I go through with this with the person I want to work with, that more likely it's going to end up being probably sometime in mid to late May, as much as I'd like it to be at the end of this month. But yeah, I got some stuff. I got all the pieces and parts, and I can put together 4 more of these cables. But once it's all said and done, I want to I probably won't keep one of these for myself, just because it's not that big of a deal. But what I want to do is I want to put the progression of the cables in a frame with the paperwork, since this is the first product I've ever designed and made. I'm kind of proud about. I thought about putting the braid over this one, but I don't know what I want to do yet. I kind of like how fun the colored wires are. Reason I did this, I should have covered in a previous video, is just so it was easier to tell what was what, and then I used that to figure out the final pinout after I tested it and made sure it'd play nice with the server. So yeah, quite the progression. Basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stages to get to a final product. I don't think I'm going to be pursuing the tower servers. The reasoning is, with the tower servers, there's not as much of a space crunch as there is with the rack mount ones. So with the rack mount ones, if you have, let's say this was a PCI Express 8-pin cable, well, you'd have 2 connectors like this on one end, and then you need the adapter that converts those 2 back down into 1, and it just gets messy and tricky. I think it's doable. I think there's people that have done it, but one of the selling points, at least in my cable, is it's less cable mess. It's easier to work with. You don't have to buy 2 different cables, and it's wired correctly, of course, so that's a plus. But if I do have enough interest, which is going to have to be quite a bit of interest, I can make a version of this that'll be compatible with T620, T630, and T640. Otherwise, I know for sure the T420 is compatible. T320 should be compatible. I just haven't tested it yet. I mean, the pinout should be the same. It should be the same redundant power supply backplane, and, well, it's a motherboard. So unless the BIOS doesn't have support for the GPU, I believe the T320 will work. I've seen some really good deals online for like T330 and T430. I'm just not convinced it's worth committing to buying them for testing purposes. I don't even know if anybody is using these for like the T420. I think the video I made verifying compatibility did get views, but until I find out otherwise, I have no indication that people are using my cable in tower servers. And realistically, anyways, my cable will not work in the T630 and T640 as far as I know, because it's not long enough. So there is that caveat. But yeah, and then if I can get a good working relationship with the company that I want to have make cables like this for me, if there are other designs that people have requests for, I wouldn't be interested in looking into that. I've thought about making PCI Express 8-pin of this, but it's already being done by China, and I guess I haven't even tested to see if one that's wired incorrectly or not will be an issue with that, because I haven't really dealt with that and I haven't heard any complaints. I don't know why, at least with the Teslas, if they're not wired correctly, if the server will act up. Because this is one of my old ones for the R720, and this one's wired incorrectly for the R730 because it doesn't have the little jumper. But I don't know. Depending on interest and stuff, if there is, other cables people have a need for that they would be interested in me making, it is something I will consider. The only real problem is just I can't really compete with China on some of this stuff, like the PCI Express 8 pins. The only thing I could do differently that China doesn't do with their straight through PCI Express 8-pin cables would be the labeling. And then I think if I were to make a PCI Express 8-pin one, I would probably do the double wide tab still for the riser side, just because I think a lot of the GPUs that require power, this doesn't have an 8-pin, but like that double wide wouldn't plug into here. Plus, I believe the keying for PCI Express is different anyways, so that probably wouldn't be relevant. Mine would just have better labeling. That would be the only thing I could offer that, and I just can't compete with their price on those. Assuming theirs are wired correctly, I should try one up, because I have a bunch of redundant power supply cables like this for PCI Express power, but they don't have a little jumper. So maybe I'll try that one day if I'm motivated. But in the meantime, that's kind of where things stand with this project. I'm really hoping to get information next week on whether or not I'm going to progress with the company I'm working with for that. But I'm really happy with the prototype. I mean, it's basically everything I wanted. It's basically just a better version of mine. And really the thing that makes, I guess, this better than mine is, let's find one of these. So these splices they're doing, I believe he said they're ultrasonic welding them, which is a better joint than the lead soldering twisting thing I'm doing. And then they have a machine that crimps these for them. So I don't have an official Molex crimp tool. I haven't any problems with it, but these, if I could hold it correctly, these are crimped to basically whatever official Molex spec would be. So mine have been fine. I don't think I've ever had any issues. I've usually visually inspect and make sure they look real good first, but like these are going to be super legit since they have all the proper tools and stuff. The machine that'll shoot these wires through and put the crimps and cuts and all that. So bit of a ramble, but hopefully good things are coming, and thanks for watching.